I was told that this was,
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Changing it up.
Next, we have Judge Brown to present the budget for the Domestic and Juvenile Court.
One of the Judges Brown.
There you go.
Judge, it's good to see
Judge
you.
Brown with an E is how we refer to you in my office.
That's right, as opposed to he Brown and she Brown, as
Right.
they refer to us in my office.
It's Brown, Judge Brown with an E.
well, we're glad to see you today, Judge.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
The
you.
floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, may it please the commissioners and the executive
Oh.
staff. It's always an honor and a delight to come down and talk about the work of the court. As you know, we've submitted a proposed budget of roughly $42 million for your consideration, and we hope that you will honor us with that approval. I would like to tell you a couple of the things that we are doing at the court so that we all know that the court is being good stewards of the county's dollars. Before I do that, I would also like to thank the commissioners for your continued support and partnership and collaboration and willingness to problem solve. We have had an outstanding relationship with the commissioners, and I think it's really added to the court's ability to do the job that it's here to do on behalf of the citizens of Franklin County. So I wanted to start with saying that. I want to give you a little bit of an update about our Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, JDI. I chair both the Franklin County committees and the statewide committees, and I wanted to give you a couple of updates about that. We've onboarded 3 more counties, Marion, Trumbull, and also Mahoning, to expand the network of services that we're providing for kids all around the state of Ohio. Our reception center, which was recently added to our general fund budget, has been a real boon. In 2007, we had a whopping 4,200 kids come through our juvenile detention facility. And I don't have to remind you, that's at a per diem of about $326 per day. By 2015, through the use of the reception center and our memorandum of understanding with Columbus Public Schools and Columbus Police Department and some other policy changes that we'll talk about, that number went from 4,259 to 914 admissions last year at the JDC. We're very proud of that. We've been able to use the reception center quite well, and in 2015 calendar year, we had over 961 youth processed there. And just as a reminder, the kids that go to the reception center are children that are diverted away from being housed at the JDC. And while we take great and excellent care of our kids at the JDC, we don't always think it's the best place for every single kid who has the unfortunate circumstance to be involved in the juvenile justice system. Those kids are better served, as we all agree, with services being provided in the community and keeping those children in their own homes. I would also like to report on our empowerment court, which is the juvenile version of the catch court. So that is the specialized docket that we use to divert young victims of sexual trafficking. Magistrates Sanchez and Stroud run that court for us. We have served 25 youth in 2016, 25 youth in 2015, 21 youth in 2014. We are in the process of seeking certification for the Supreme Court as a specialized docket. And I would also like to add that we've been able to add these additional services and keep these kids from getting deeper into the juvenile justice system without using any additional resources, just rearranging our own staff and creating that docket. So I'm very proud of that. We also reported, and I know members of your staffs were there this fall when we reported on our behavioral health and juvenile justice assessments and the work that we've been doing with BHJJ. We've been doing that work now for a total of 10 years, and we have fantastic results. There have been over 470 youths served, largely African-American males. 16 years is our average age. Through our use of BHJJ, we've been able to reduce our out-of-home placements by 75%. 93% of these kids have been avoided. We've been able to avoid sending 93% of these kids deeper into the system and being institutionalized at the Department of Youth Services. And again, to relate that back in dollars and cents, sometimes it's easier to understand. Our BHJJ assessments and the accompanying treatment run the county about $5,000 per child, as opposed to our typical DYS incarceration, which runs the state about $200,000 per child. And the typical kid that is sent to the Department of Youth Services will spend roughly anywhere from 30 to 60 days at the detention facility here, which again is at $325 per day per child. So that's been quite a significant reduction in costs. We've seen also reductions in school discipline through the use of BHJJ. We've seen reductions in substance abuse and trauma symptoms. And we've seen significant improvements in school performance and their kids' overall functioning in their homes and in schools and among the citizens of Franklin County. A couple other things for JDI update, and that is our Teen and Police Service Academy. We call it TAPS. That's the program that works out of high schools in conjunction with Columbus Public Schools and Columbus Police Department, working as mentors with children for a 11 to 15 week period of time. Last time we ran the programs, we ran it at East High School and Independence High School. And this year the courts expanded it to include 2 middle schools, which have yet to be included, because again, the sooner we can get our hands and intervene with some of these kids, we believe that we can make more changes in their lives and positively impact them and keep them from the juvenile justice system altogether.
Judge Brown, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Starting in middle makes a lot of sense. I was out at East with the TAPS program at the graduation.
The graduation, yes.
Last year, a year ago, and it was apparent that some of these kids that were in high school did not take well to the program out at East. And then Mayor Coleman was with me, and he was not real happy at some of the remarks some of the kids made. And at one point when I spoke, I mentioned to one of the kids that I hoped I did not see him when I go out to the prisons to speak. And afterward he said to me, well, yeah, you will, because that's where I'm gonna go. And we talked for a while, and I was very disappointed to hear him say that. And when we talked more, it was clear that he was just, it was too late for reaching this kid. There were some others in the group that were fine, but this kid, it was just a little too late for. So middle school, I think, makes sense.
Yeah, and we're really excited about that. We had wanted to do it initially, but you know, when you're working with a brand new program that originates from another state, it's a little uncertain. And so we decided to go with the 2 high schools that we had the most interest expressed by their principals in bringing those programs in.
Sure.
And East High School and Independence High School may not even be the 2 high schools that are selected this year, because for the reasons that you stated. We want to make sure that we're going to have an impact, and we want to make sure that we're going to actually see some positive results out of this interaction. These police officers, if you've been to the graduations, you see how invested they are. The catering that they do and the time, and it's a great program. But we agree with you, we had to bring it down to a lower level, and you will see that as we continue to expand the program. We will continue to expand it in the middle schools and keep 1 or 2 high schools available.
I think that makes sense.
We also conducted implicit bias training for all of our staff, which we think is critical. Implicit bias, we all have them. We're not aware of them, hence the word implicit. And we're trying to make sure that we're not adding to the county's disproportionate minority contact with these biases that we may not be cognizant of. So we've trained all of our staff. In addition, we have rolled out trauma-informed care for our JDF staff. And again, the purpose of that is to make sure that we are treating kids differently if they're here because they have undiagnosed mental conditions, as opposed to just having some serious oppositional defiance issues and refusals to deal with societal norms. So those trainings were rolled out. The other major initiative that I want to discuss is what the court calls the Phoenix Project. Our Phoenix Project is designed to improve attendance among kids in Franklin County, to provide meaningful opportunities for diversion, and to provide community service opportunities and restitution opportunities. If you may remember, a few years ago, we cut back our restitution and community service departments. We have been working with local pastors and quarterly forums to get additional space and opportunities for kids to do community service. We found that without having places already pre-approved and slated for children to do their community service, sometimes they can't perform those hours because nobody is interested in taking them, which results in a violation of their probation, which results in them bouncing back into the system, which we don't want to be the cause of kids getting embedded deeper and deeper in the system. One of the main attendance improvement policies that we've got going on right now is a truancy pilot that we're doing with Educational Services Commission, spearheaded by Judge Gill and Julie Troth. In 2016, we have used 2 of our liaisons to divert roughly 911 children out of formal filings from truancy. Just to give you some sort of idea of what truancy does in terms of impact to our juvenile docket, roughly 1/3 of the delinquency and A&D cases are truancy cases. So that's 1/3 of our docket that we've been able to divert out once they appear at preliminary hearings. The actual number of cases in just 2016 alone was over 1,700 cases. So it's been extremely, extremely useful to the court, useful to the prosecutor's office, and again, to better use their resources, useful to the PD's office in better use of their resources. In the 15-16 school year, there was over 1,000 kids that were diverted. So we've increased it by almost 700, more than 700 kids so far. And again, if we are able to successfully divert these kids at the preliminary stage, we can avoid them ever actually having a delinquency filing on their record, which again, the more kids we can prevent from coming into the system on a formal basis, the better off we are. I would also like to inform you that we signed our first MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with Columbus Public Schools to get our probation officers back into the communities. We hope that that will also help catch these cases at a earlier stage and keep them from formal filings. And we are planning on doing an orientation on House Bill 410, which is the big truancy legislation, with the Education Services Center and Columbus Public Schools. And lastly, I will finalize with major initiatives for 2017. And as you know, we have received we have received approval from the Ohio Supreme Court to add 2 more judges, and we have the support of our friends at the Commissioner's Office to do that build out and all the other associated costs. But we have yet to have legislation go through. We have legislation proposed, but we haven't had it enacted on. And so obviously getting those 2 judges fully funded with supporting legislation is a major initiative for us next year. And also our one-stop domestic violence center, which is a collaboration with all of the other courts and the clerks of court to centralize the process for seeking domestic violence protection. And again, support from the Board of Commissioners. We have the funding to get that space built out, and we appreciate your support in understanding what a burden that is on our citizens, our fellow citizens, to come and have to jockey between floors and offices in order to seek protection. So those are the major initiatives that the court is undertaking this year, and certainly if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Good testimony.
Thank you.
So you're proposing legislation in 17 with the hopes of adding 2 more.
Yes.
And that'll make enough of an impact on your docket to be able to?
Well, yes and no. According to the Supreme Court of Ohio, adding 2 more positions here in Franklin County will make us on par with Hamilton County, cases per judge, and will still put us behind Cuyahoga County, cases per judge. But considering that we have had the status quo for as long as we have, we believe that it will be a sufficient fix for a number of years to come.
Good.
We're very, very happy and satisfied with that if we're able to push that legislation through, absolutely.
How many domestic and juvenile relations judges do they have in Cleveland, in Cuyahoga County?
I want to say it's over 12, isn't it?
It's more-
Aren't they split
Yes.
though, between
They are.
juvenile judges and domestic?
They are, but when the,
So they've got separate dockets, separate judges that do only,
that's true. And Hamilton County is the same, but when the
Ah.
Supreme Court crunched the numbers, they combined the dockets.
they did.
And took a total number of cases per judge available so they could compare apples to apples.
No, you talked a lot about truancy, and we've funded various efforts through the years. Most recently, I think, before Phoenix, Project Key.
Yes.
What do you think will, and ESC was involved with that as
Right.
well. Then I can't remember the first one when I became a new commissioner that was in place.
Probably the SMART program.
Yeah, I think you're right, Judge. So this is the third one I've seen.
Yes.
This remains such a huge problem. And it's certainly all the districts, but Columbus is the largest district.
Absolutely.
Why do you think the Phoenix project is different? And why will it work better? Because we worked very closely with prosecuting attorney on Project Key, and everyone thought it was working. Then I'm not sure exactly how we got to Phoenix.
Project Key is still somewhat out there because Educational Services never abandoned that informal attempt. I think two things. First of all, we added liaisons, and when I say liaisons, we can use the word truancy officers if you'd like. Truancy
Is that
officers.
really what they are?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what they are. You know, we're all, except for maybe Zach, we're all over 40, so we probably know them as truancy officers.
Right.
Well, you're not over 40 either.
No, he
So,
isn't.
you know, the people who actually come to your house, roust you out of
Right,
bed,
right.
and transport you to
Right.
school. That's one of the key differences. Our liaisons are fabulous.
Okay.
And as the
And they're-
budget allows, we will keep expanding.
So they are going to the home
Oh,
and
yes.
saying, where is your son or daughter?
Yes.
Okay,
And getting
that's
them
good.
out of bed. That's huge.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is 410 is going to be a huge increase to the courts because House Bill 410, as you probably already know, makes the schools undertake quite a number of interventions with the family and in the building before we get to a court filing.
And that's appropriate.
It's very appropriate.
Yes.
And it's really going to slow down the number of filings that we're seeing. As I've told you, for the last couple of years, we're well above 1,000 filings. It's about 1,000 and almost 1,800 and 16,015. That's going to slow that way down because they have to inform the parents. They have to work with the parents. They have to create an intervention team. They have to,
Good.
you know, make sure all the services, the 405, the 504s and the IEPs are in place.
Right.
And give that a chance to work through before they can resort to a formal filing with the school, with the court. So that's gonna slow things down considerably.
And I think a lot of districts, if I recall correctly, having served 8 years as a city council member in another jurisdiction, I know that particular school district was doing those things. So I'm glad to hear that will now be state law and all school districts will be doing those things.
And to Columbus Public Schools' credit, they've begun already. A lot of the area school districts have already begun with the understanding that 410 is expected to become law before the end of the year. They've already begun to get their ducks in a row, and we're very happy about that.
How about Southwestern? Because it's our larger, the other larger school district here.
Yes, and they're very invested in this. They're very involved in this truancy pilot.
Good.
And very involved with the liaisons.
Good, excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Any other questions?
Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you to the courts for doing such good work.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too.
You too. Okay, so we have child support? Right.